So 2 weeks ago, we bought the cheapest and the most expensive 125 pit bikes from Amazon. And within 1 day, they both broke. Since then, we've learned a lot about these bikes. The first thing being is how to actually pronounce the name of this bike. It's not Teo Teo, it's Tao Tao. If you're Chinese, it's Dao Dao. This one is a Pablo. So when Caleb's bike broke while we were riding it, we were pretty excited that we had paid $88 for the, I think, 3 or 4 year Amazon extended warranty on this thing. We were really confused of how that's actually gonna work out. How is it gonna play out? Do we send the bike back? Are they gonna send us a new bike? Are we gonna have 2 bikes then? Are they gonna send us a new motor? Like, how is this actually gonna play out? Normally when you're dealing with getting refunds or sending stuff back and forth from Amazon, it's really, really simple. We found out that is not the case when it comes to you buying little tiny motorcycles. So what we learned is that this is considered a non-returnable item. If we would have looked at the description and the listing a little bit better, we probably would have seen that. So when we contacted the extended warranty company and said, hey, the bike's not working, it feels like it has no compression, they contacted us back and said, when did you buy the bike? We told them a week ago. They said, it's not on us yet. You have to have had the bike for a longer amount of time for the extended warranty to kick in. You actually need to go back to Amazon and go back to the seller who sold it to you. Not Amazon, but the person behind Amazon who was actually profiting off the motorcycle. So we contacted them. They told us that we need to call Tao Tao America and talk to a technician there. Now what the guy told me was, he's like, all right, I'm gonna give you a number to call, Tao Tao America. If you don't get a hold of them, call me back. I'm gonna give you another number to call, which is kind of frustrating. I was like, no, just give me both numbers. And he's like, it doesn't work that way. So we finally got a call back from Tao Tao America. And he tells me that it's actually not on them, which is the manufacturer. It's back on the seller. He's like, I don't even know why you're calling me. But from you talking to me, if we decide that your bike has an engine failure, then I will tell the seller that it has an engine failure and they will send you a new motor. He also told me, he's like, you need to do a compression test. And he said that from 150 to 200 is good. Obviously the higher the better. From 100 to 149, it's gonna run, but not run well. And anything less than 100, it's not gonna run. You definitely have engine failure. But also if it's in the 100 to 150 range, you might also have engine failure, but it's not gonna run very well. So the problem is most people like myself don't have compression testers. So I had to order one on Amazon, which I'm glad I have one. And if you're not mechanically inclined, you might have to take it to a mechanic. Some mechanics don't work on Chinese bikes, some do. But your mechanic is not gonna work with the warranty company. He's gonna work with you. You're gonna have to pay the mechanic and go back to the warranty company and say, hey, this is how much it costs for me to do a compression test or to get the bike checked out. So this is not an easy process. This is not the normal, easy process you would normally do with Amazon where you walk into Kohl's and you just give them your product back and then they send it back to Amazon, or they send you a box and you mail it back, or they just refund you the money. I was planning on just riding this bike or walking this bike right in the Kohl's and saying, here you go, give me my money back. Now some of you guys might be thinking that the reason this bike may have had failure is because we did not properly break it in. I saw that in the comments a lot. You guys didn't properly break in the bikes. We did replace the oil, but we did not do a proper break-in. And there's myths and there's theories, contradicting each other about how to do a proper break-in. I got 2 problems with a proper break-in. 1, no young kid who's gonna buy this bike is ever gonna do anything close to a proper break-in. And 2, proper break-ins are super boring. Why would you expect them to do it anyway? We're trying to see how tough these bikes are. So that's everything about the Tao Tao. Let's go to this bike. Let's go to the Apollo. This thing ran great, other than the fact that I feel like it was pre-wrecked when we got it. I did break this lever, which is normal. Even though it is a breakaway lever. I was really impressed with this bike. But when I brought it home, it was all dirty, had a bunch of coal and stuff from it. So of course, I washed it off. I'm pressure washing the bike, and this is an open element air filter, so I'm making sure not to spray directly on top of that, and the bike just shuts off. I keep my bikes running while I'm cleaning them off, kind of steam cleans them from the heat from the engine. I wasn't able to get it fired up. So that night, I was real excited, so I pulled the carb off. I'm checking everything, I'm drying everything out. Still can't get it to run. I think, okay, I'll put the old carb back on. I swap that out. I probably swapped carbs maybe about 4 or 5 times, clean the carb out, make sure I didn't get any water in it. And what was happening is when I was kicking the bike over, when I was kicking the kickstart, it would push back real hard. So I'd kick it and it would like build up pressure and push back real hard. I did some research. I think the problem was that it was like the CDI box was not getting enough spark. We're not getting any spark. So I got a little spark tester. I tested it. It was getting some spark. It looked good enough to me, but it apparently was not getting enough spark. So after me spending about 4 hours on it, It just happens that 2 days later, from it sitting and whatever dried up, whatever was wrong with it just dried up. I think water got in the CDI box, even though it is a sealed unit, it's like a solid state sealed unit. The bike fired up perfect the way it used to. But then when I went and took it for a spin, it was intermittently bogging down at the higher RPMs, and I'm frustrated at this even more. So we happen to have an Apollo dealer less than a mile down the street. They sell Apollos, they sell pit bikes, and they sell trailers called Keystone Trailers. And we took the bikes to him, dropped them off, and within a day he calls me back and says, both your bikes are running. I took this thing to get it fixed. I knew they could fix it, figure out what the problem with it was, and they have parts there. I took that just to do a compression test. I didn't think they'd be able to get it running. He calls me back and says, both your bikes are running. So the problem with the Tao was that you can't start the bike with the clutch in. You have to be in neutral, the clutch out to start the bike. There's a little adjustment screw right here. This was adjusted, and it was right on the line of the clutch disengaging and actually engaging for you to use the Kickstarter. All he did was he just readjusted it. And the only reason he was able to figure that out so quickly was he spent like 4 or 5 hours on another bike that had the exact same problem. And then he's like, well, it might be the same thing. It took him 2 minutes to fix the bike. This was a fault from the manufacturers, and it had nothing to do with what we did. Super easy fix. Now the problem with the Apollo was something got wet, probably the CDI box. It wasn't getting a spark, but while I was switching out carburetors and cleaning them out multiple times, I got some vacuum lines mixed up, and apparently I was sending the vacuum line from the carburetor into the crankcase, and it was making back pressure, and the guy was joking around. He's like, it was almost like you were trying to turbocharge the bike. So he looked at it, knew exactly what the problem was, took it off, and it's ran perfect ever since. So with the Tao, that was a manufacturer's error. This one, clearly my error. Now at this moment, you're probably thinking, wow, Sean, you're an idiot. You don't know anything about fixing motorcycles. You're so dumb. And that's true. I did learn a lot from working on these bikes. I'm no expert, but chances are you may know as much as I do. You may know less than I do. Chances are a 16-year-old, this is his first experience with motorcycles. So the fact that I'm not a motorcycle mechanic or an expert is probably best case scenario for everybody. It just sucks to be me, Now, something I also learned was why the Apollo clutch is so hard to pull in. If you look at it, when it pulls in this lever right here. Now I'm gonna hold my fingers like this, come over to the Tao. That lever is significantly longer, almost a ½ an inch longer, which is almost like 30%. So this one has more leverage to pull in that same thing. When you take it down the leverage, it makes it different. There might be a modification. I might be able to fix that, but I'm not sure. It would be nice if I could fix that though, because this one feels great. So when we first got these bikes, me and Caleb were racing them, and they were both neck and neck, almost this. They really felt like the same, and I thought they may have been the exact same motors. We since then found out that they are not the same motor. They look like the same motor, but they are in fact made with different parts and made from completely different places. So because the bikes were neck and neck, they felt the same in performance, we decided to use the Tao as the control and the Apollo as the variable, and put the upgraded carburetor in the Apollo. And the performance it made a big difference. It made a huge difference, as you guys can saw from the last video. And what we were trying to compare was the durability of the bikes, which one broke and how long they actually lasted. We didn't think both bikes were gonna break within the first day. So now that we have both motorcycles running, we wanted to level the playing field for you, and we bought a 22mm carburetor from the local pit bike shop and put in the Tao. To be honest with you, I just rode this with the upgraded carb. It feels amazing. Depending on how this test goes, I might get that exact same carb and put it on the Apollo. So of course the first test is which one can accelerate fastest. And if you remember from the first video, the Apollo was significantly faster than the Tao. The Apollo was still kind of bogging down at the higher RPMs, but since both bikes had aftermarket carburetors, they were pretty comparable. Now for the compression test. So apparently both of our bikes are lacking in the compression category, and they should have been at least 150. I don't know. So the next comparison is the suspension comparison. And to put it in words that everyone can understand, this one just rebounds too slow, and this one just rebounds too fast and bounces too much. So next comparison, we're gonna do a braking competition. They're both pretty comparable. There's no obvious winner to them. And the next competition is the braking competition, as in which one broke the most. And other than a lever that I broke from dropping it, and the shift lever that was broke pretty much from the factory, and whatever got wet when I hosed it off, mine didn't really break. So in Caleb's bike, other than the plastic piece breaking from when he dropped it, and the manufacturer error of that starter adjustment screw, his has been fine too. Now both bikes basically require an upgraded carburetor. It really wakes the bike up. It makes it 100% better. Just factor in, if you're gonna buy one of these, buy a new carburetor for it. And I suggest the 22mm one. The 26mm is probably too big. So this one was $750 as the cheapest one you could buy. But is it? This one's $950, still cheap, but the most expensive one you could buy on Amazon. But the problem is it? Are both these bikes actually deceiving you? And are these things just cheap enough that it's gonna entice you, that someone can afford it, and just cheap enough that you can get into a motorcycle for much cheaper than what you normally could for a brand new bike, and it's just gonna get you into the sunk cost fallacy? You buy a bike like this for $750, and then the lever breaks, and then you're like, I'm gonna put new levers on it, bam, 40 more bucks. And then you put a new carburetor on it, let's say 30 or 60 bucks. And then your pegs break, another 50 bucks. And then you're like, I wanna do an exhaust, I wanna keep up with my buddies, another, 100 bucks. And then you realize the suspension's it's too springy. So you upgrade the suspension and you start doing all these things because things are breaking and you want it to be better. And before you know it, you have more money in this bike than you have in either of these bikes. Maybe both of these bikes combined, you might have 1,800 bucks in a motorcycle that's only worth $500 now. So you do a couple modifications, you realize maybe I should have bought that bike. You buy a bike like this and the exact same thing. You start upgrading it, and then before you know it, you start realizing that maybe you should have just bought a used Japanese powered dirt bike. This is a 2004 CRF 250X that I paid $1,600 for, and it is an amazing motorcycle. It's proven to be durable, proven to be tough, significantly more powerful than both these bikes combined. But that's if you decided that you wanna go in, you bought this to be an entry-level dirt bike, and you wanna step into riding dirt bikes. Dirt bikes are great, I love them, but pit bikes are a different thing. If you decide that, you know what, I really like pit bikes, maybe there's another option for you. This is a Pitster Pro. It's one of two of the top names in pit racing motorcycles. You got Pitster Pro, and then you got Piranha. It's one of the top pit bikes you can buy. This is a 155. It retails around 1,800 bucks. If you were to try to make this bike or this bike anywhere close to perform like this, you would spend maybe $2,000 in both of them, and it still would never be as good. This bike comes with better suspension, a better frame. You can tell the welds are much better, much more attention brought out to them. It's got an oil cooler. It's got a better skid plate. All the components, they look and they feel significantly more durable. And when you kick the Kickstarter, you can tell it feels really high on the compression. So a lot more quality and care has been put into putting these bikes together. And it was put together by a mechanic, not like these other bikes that was put together by me and Caleb. All right, so here's the scoop. I don't actually have a dog in this fight. You guys can buy any one of these bikes. I don't make any money if you buy them. We don't personally sell them. I actually bought all these bikes with my own money just so we can have them, we can beat them up, and hopefully me and some of my friends can go riding sometimes. What I love about all these bikes is all these bikes get people into riding. This is these sort of the simplest forms of a motorcycle, of an engine. If you understand this bike and you learn how to change suspension, change carbs, you know more about motorcycles than a lot of people do. And I think that's awesome. These bikes are entry level and they get people into riding. They get people into riding dirt, and people riding dirt gets people into riding street, gets people fired up about riding bikes. That's what I love. I love seeing people ride on two wheels. I don't care what it looks like. I do, however, think that someday an American company will come around and start producing bikes like this at a better quality with easier parts to get and that are just as much fun. Is that going to be SRK Cycles? Maybe. Maybe. We are going to keep on riding these bikes, keep on abusing them, and keep on filling you in on what happens. Eventually, we will be able to use the Amazon warranty. It's a 3 or 4 year warranty. Something's going to break on these things. We're going to tell you guys all about it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And just out of curiosity, let's see how this bike ranks up against one of these things. And of course, in classic I just got a motorcycle fashion, yeah, I did that too.